In today's video I'm going to be looking at this, my Olympus 45mm f1.8 prime lens. Join me. Well, hi YouTube, Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy with you once again, and today I'm going to be testing out this. This is my Olympus 45mm f1.8 prime lens. Superb little bit of kit. Let's see how we get on with it. And keep watching because I've got some examples later on of photographs I've taken this afternoon just here. Now I'm actually at a place called Haltwhistle, which is written to be the centre of Great Britain, just south of the Scottish border in Northumberland. Lovely little market town. If you get the chance, come along and see it. It's a great place. Now, I've been taking some shots this afternoon of some abstracts from a bridge that I've seen with some wonderful iron work on it, a little bit of landscape work and some shots of the horses. The sun's just gone down now, but it's been a really wonderful afternoon insofar as the light conditions. And it's been ideal for testing out this little lens. Now this is my favourite lens. It really is the favourite lens I have in my whole collection. It's close run to the 17 that I'm recording this on, but it still pips the post. And it's probably the lens I would suggest for somebody to get as their third lens if they're starting in photography. You have the kit lens, a 14-42 or the 12-60, which come with the cameras themselves. I normally recommend that somebody should look towards a 25mm lens for the next one. I normally recommend that somebody should look for a 25mm lens for the next one, for that wonderful mid-range. But for the third lens, it's going to be a toss-up between the 17mm that I'm using and this 45. They really do give you that nice bit of extension that you need to get into the next part of your photography, and both of them, the quality is outstanding. Now this little thing is wonderful for me. It's tiny. It weighs 127 grams, including both the front and back cap. Take the back cap off, it's 120 grams, which means that it's almost nothing on the front of the camera. It's 2 bars of chocolate. If you want to take a couple of chocolate bars along in your camera case, well, you could. That's the same sort of weight as you're losing with this lens. Absolutely nothing. Lengthwise, 58mm with the lens caps on, 58mm from the very back to the very front, and the diameter is only 55mm, which is the same width as the lens fitting itself. Metal fitting on it, just take this off and let you see. It's got a metal fitting, although the lens is predominantly plastic in construction, but it's a good quality plastic. Lenses are arranged as 9 lenses arranged in 8 groups, and as I say, it's a prime lens, so you've got a fixed focal length of 45mm. Tiny little opening on the front. It's only 37mm diameter for the lens, for the filter fittings on that. So that could cause you a few little problems if you do use filters. You'd need a very small adapter for it. Bad parts. Well, there's a couple of bad parts on it, unfortunately. First of all, the clutch. It doesn't have the sliding clutch like the 17mm and the Olympus does and a few of the others. I really like that sliding clutch mechanism. I find it fantastic to use. Very, very useful. But the big drawback for me is standard across this sort of level of lenses from Olympus. This isn't the pro level lens. They do a pro level, which is an f1.2, considerably more expensive, considerably heavier. The pro level's about £899 to buy. This in the UK is £249 that I've seen it advertised brand new. I'll come to the prices in a moment. But the problem that we get on this level of lenses from Olympus is they don't give us a lens hood. Please, goodness sake, Olympus, we're paying for a good quality lens, give us a lens hood. Lens hood is going to put the price of this up by another £30 for the black or £32 for the silver. And remember that this lens can come in either black or silver as default, so you have a choice on those. But for the price of the lens hood, come on Olympus, you can throw one in. The other thing is that it's got this strange little ring which you take off around the front of the lens where the lens hood would fit. It's decorative, doesn't do anything else. Bit of a pain in the backside to be honest for me, but never mind, it's one of those things. It does make it look a little bit neater. I said about prices. I've been looking for new prices. They seem to be averaging about £249 to £259. And for those watching in the States, the pound to dollar insofar as actual buying power tends to be about the 1 for 1. So we're buying these for about $250. I'm guessing in the States it'll be about $250. Second hand, had a look on MPB just before I came out this afternoon. A good quality one of these is retailing at £114 used. A one in a like new quality, £134. You know, it's a no-brainer. Buy it. It's well worth it. On the camera itself, it tends to be strange because there's almost nothing there. It almost makes the camera back heavy because there's just nothing to balance at the front, but it is really, really good. Now, one of the things that I've loved about this lens is the fact that it is so crystal clear sharp. It really is pin sharp. It goes down to f1.8, which makes it a nice fast lens. As I say, not as fast as the Pro lens in the range, but to be perfectly honest, I've never run out of opportunities on this. At f1.8 it is crystal clear in the centre with a very, very, very slight softening on the outside corners. By the time you get to about f2.8 to f4, you find that the whole thing is crystal clear right away across, and it stays that way until you get to the real high f numbers. Now, you'll see a little bit further on as we're looking at some of these photographs about how well it does its bokeh in the background. It does very, very good if you're into bokeh balls, you know, the little light balls. It has a 7-segment diaphragm in here, so it gives a nice smooth bokeh, nice rounded sort of edges to it. And the whole thing is just a very neat, tidy lens. There is competition. Lumix, for instance, has the 42.5, which is f1.7, I believe, f1.7, f1.8. I'd have to double check on that because I haven't seen, but the 42.5, I have used that lens. I've never done a comparison of the two together, but they are very, very close. You pay your money and takes your choice on them. For me personally, I can't knock this. The bad part about this in the comparison though is it doesn't have image stabilization in the lens. But that's never really been a problem for me. If you watch my video, which has a link above, saying about old-fashioned techniques, one of the things we used to do was use bracing to actually get our shutter speed lower when we're using a longer lens. Now this is equivalent to a 90mm, so you're talking about 1/100th of a second as being the accepted norm for the minimum. But again, if you watch that video, you'll find that you can actually get things slowed down even more than that if you're willing to stand properly, breathe properly, and brace yourself. So in reality, even on the older cameras from Lumix, where they didn't have in-body image stabilization, it's not going to be a problem. The newer cameras, for instance the GX8 and G9, which I tend to use, are not a problem at all. They've got extremely good in-body image stabilization. All the Olympus cameras, all the Olympus Micro Four Third cameras have got IBIS built into them, so it's not a problem on any of those. Really, on any modern camera, stick it on, use it. You're not going to get problems. So I've taken a few photographs on this afternoon. Let's take a break and go and have a look at some of those photos now. I took a few shots. I was looking towards doing some abstract shots as well as some landscape shots, which is different to what I normally shoot on this. As I say, I'm normally shooting portraits, and as I say, for portraits I just don't think it can be beaten. For the price and for the value and for its usability, and I've shot thousands and thousands of people on this with this particular lens. But if I have a look at some of the shots here, let's take the first one. This is a water tower at Haltwhistle Station, and again, if we look onto this, the detail is absolutely fantastic that you can see from this. The colour is good. These haven't been adjusted except for a little bit of exposure compensation on them, just to make sure that the light's about right. So this one is just basically straight out of the camera. I don't think I've adjusted it at all. But as you can see, there's good definition. This one was shot, I think almost all of them are shot on f1.8 unless I say anything other. But let's just have a look. No, this one is shot on f8, 100th of a second. So really good definition on this, really good colour balance. Shot on all these photographs were shot on the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II, which I acquired recently, and perfect on that. I took some shots along the River South Tyne, and again along the viaduct, and the idea on these was just to try and get some contrast into the shots. And as you'll see on these two shots, again, I've done nothing really insofar as image formatting on these. They're just about straight out of the camera. Went across a small bridge, and I said about doing some abstract shots. I do enjoy taking abstract items. Abstract, of course, just taking out a little bit of detail from a bigger picture. So something like the bridge across the South Tyne. This is a nice little footbridge at Haltwhistle on the South Tyne Trail, and just taking the standard sort of shot on the footrail itself. You got these fantastic patterns in the wrought iron sides of it. But by changing it to a 1-to-1 ratio and cropping in somewhat, I think it makes a more pleasing shot. And again, another one of the bridge buttresses. That's fine again on that one. Again, pin sharp, real good definition on the lens, really good colour rendition, and probably the best thing to say about it is the lens has very little effect on the image, apart from its apart from its focal length, the lens doesn't colour the image much at all. It tends to take in what's out there and really use it properly close up. Now, talking of close up, the lens isn't a macro lens, but it will go down to about 1/2 metre or 1.64 feet minimum focal distance, which isn't super close. But with it being a 45mm lens, or equivalent of a 90mm on full frame, you've got quite a zoomed in shot anyway. So if we're doing something like these blades of grass, you can see on those, we say about Micro Four Thirds struggling with background bokeh. Well, you tell me about these, because I don't think you can actually ask for a great deal softer background than this. Again, this one was shot on f2.8, so it's not even fully open. It's f2.8, this one. And great deal of detail on that. And what I decided to do is I took 3 shots of some of the grass here. The first one that we have here, just on this grass, this is a minimum focal distance of 1/2 metre away. And this was f1.8, so the lens was fully open. And you can see the fall off is incredibly fast. The fall off in focus, the central part being in focus, but just a few inches back from there and you find that the focus is gone. Really, really shallow depth of field. And again, when people are saying about Micro Four Thirds not having the ability to give a creamy bokeh, this is where I disagree. Basically the same shot again, but this one which was at f2.5. So we've gone up a little bit on there. Fair enough. It's still, this is equivalent near enough to what you're going to be getting from your fastest zoom lenses on Micro Four Thirds. This one, which was at f4. Now we're starting to get the background really come less creamy in the background, but it's still an awfully shallow depth of field on that. And if you look to the bottom right hand side with the flowers behind, they're only 6 inches or so behind the main one. 6 inches, maybe a foot behind the main thing on this. And at f4 they're still well out of focus. But then I got myself across to the horses field, and we had a couple of horses in the field. The sun was going down with that lovely golden hour sort of time, but these were probably about 15 feet away from me, 15 maybe 17 feet away from me, so I wasn't close up. So again, trying to get any sort of depth of field out of this should be almost impossible that sort of distance. But again, on these, I think they're all shot fully open. I'll just double check. But yeah, f1.8, about 200th of a second. And if we have a look at the first one here, we've got the horse looking over the top of the fence. Pin sharp, but again, that fallback of the focus goes very, very quickly. The background's nicely out of focus. It's not a super slick out of focus at that, but you know, it's a very, very usable shot. And the idea for the out of focus for me, this idea of having the creamy background, it's to create separation. And sometimes I think we can get so obsessed with the creaminess of the background that we forget that it's actually there to create a separation rather than necessarily a second type of shot. And I find that some of it, if it is too creamy, actually spoils the shot for me. It almost makes the subject jump out too much. But I wanted to see how sharp this lens really was. I knew it was sharp, but I wanted to have a look and see how sharp it was. So I took this and I zoomed in on the horse to 200%. And if you can look closely on this, obviously this is going out on YouTube on a 1080p upload on this one, but this has gone about 200%. This is a ridiculous amount of zoom. Yet the detail, if you can see on the eye itself, you can actually see a slight red part in the centre, which is my t-shirt, the same t-shirt I've got on at the moment, across the fence. You can see the bushes overhead, and you can actually even see the eyelashes and the little wrinkles and things around the horse's eye. And this is a ridiculous amount of zoom. And so again, people who say, well, it's only got 20 megapixels, you can't boost these things up very much because if it does, it's going to get pixelated. Well, this is 200% on there. If you can imagine this, the size blown up onto what you want to see it, you don't really have much problem with pixelation on these ones, I don't think. A few more shots of the horses themselves. Do another one, this one with the horse just behind the fence. And again, this one was shot, just double checking, at I believe f1.8. It is 3/20th of a second at f1.8. But again, let's zoom in again to 200% on this one. And again, look at the detail that you've got in the hairs. The hairs are well defined. And this again, as I say, is from 15, 17 feet, maybe a touch more away. And again, this beautiful ability to pull out the detail on that. And this one I really went to town on somewhat, because again, you've got the 1.8, even from this distance, the horse is nicely going out of focus with the depth of field fading away there. So by the time you get down to the shoulder of the horse, you're starting to lose focus there, which is great. And the background itself nice and blurry. But again, zooming in on the horse to 200%. And the detail on the eye and the detail on the hair of the horse is fabulous. Now, as I say, remember these have been brought down in resolution. You're only talking about 1080p on this, so the maximum resolution you got is 1920 by 1080 that you're going to see on here. But even with that lack of resolution, that downsizing the resolution compared to the original 20 megapixels that we had, this really does show what the lens is capable of. So, in conclusion, what do I think about this 45mm f1.8 Olympus lens? Well, as I said before, they're as cheap as chips. They really are fabulous quality that comes out of it. It's a no-brainer. If you've got the money, go out and buy it. It's well worth it. And then when you've got it, take it out, experiment with it and use it. You won't regret it. It's a fabulous lens and it's so easy to keep in your kit bag. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget, give me a thumbs up below, and if you would like to leave a donation for a cup of coffee to keep the channel going, there's a link in the description below on that as well. My name is Brian James at Micro Four Thirds Guy. Don't forget, take your camera, take your lens, get outside, take some photographs and enjoy your photography. See you soon.